It says it is.
It's preparing.
Yeah, I think so. On your side now, you're going to be presented with a couple of things that are like, okay, give me, and you already enabled the streaming option on your YouTube.
Right. This has been like a 3-week process. Each week
That's
it's
right.
a new setting that I have to jump through.
Right. First, you got to enable it in Zoom. Then you have to enable it on YouTube.
We're live.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
Very good. I'm going to hit record as well here, so we have a local copy just in case. Shall we call the meeting to order?
Yes.
Okay. In attendance, we have Chris Parkin, Maureen Williams. Wait, Gwen, did we lose Gwen?
No,
See
she's
Gwen.
here.
Oh, sorry. Right in the middle. Thank you, Gwen Denny. In addition, we have Tom McMorrin and Stephanie Pearson-Hugo. Very good. First agenda item, public comment. Sorry, David, in order to, I'm gonna send a little thing here, ask to unmute in case you would like to say anything.
Hi, we don't have any comments at this time, but thank you.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Okay, board member comment?
Can we get a last name for David if I missed it
Oh.
for the minutes?
Yeah, it's Weldon, Weldon.
Thank you, David.
We just moved to the area.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome. Okay, pardon me one moment.
We'll try not to put you to sleep.
Yeah.
We don't get many visitors, so we have to note them.
I'm gonna, so we'll move to agenda one. Chris, are you okay calling the sort of progression, or Maureen or Gwen, you okay calling the progression through the agenda? And I'm gonna start sharing my screen to show the documents.
Sure, go for it.
Sorry. There we go. I knew I had it up. There we go. And share. Okay. So, and David, for your benefit, and I think Stephanie, you may have joined us on one of these calls before, but what we the way we tend to do this is we take the recommendations, the policy recommendations from CABE, we put them into Google Docs, and then as committee members have time between sort of one week and the next, we mark up the document. We have a set of core principles, which I don't think we have to go through in detail, but simple things like brevity is preferred. If there's not a difference between two policies, we take the less wordy version. We don't include the sort of regulation or the mission statement, or it's just about the policy. So we really try to skinny down these documents. And then if there's anything that we think, hold on a second, that doesn't make sense in the context of our specific area, then we do some editing. Most of the time it's, the policy works, but we'll see how that works out today. Okay. I would ask, is there any preference, Chris, Maureen, Gwen, about which document we start with? I sent out this policy updates collection. I think this is the document that anytime we get new content from CABE, we'll put it into here for discussion during our sort of quarterly reviews of new policies. But I know we wanted to fast track the, sort of the discussion for these specific policies. And so we're sort of going out of order. We have a 4,000 series, a 6,000 series, and another 6,000 series here. Is there a preference? Should we just go in numerical order and start with face masks, or
Do we want to start possibly with the policy on suspension of policies? Because I thought we might want to just pass on that entirely.
Okay.
I'm in the same place as Chris.
Okay, so I think is that this guy here?
No,
No.
Not
it's
6.1.
6114.81.
Got it. Yep. Okay. So
And I suggest that was meant to cover last spring and shouldn't be an embedded part of the policy.
No, it was way too specific for a policy book and would be really awkward to adopt now when the governor's school closure order has effectively ended anyway, and it's all predicated on that order.
okay. Do we feel like there's any utility in this as it's something we keep in our back pocket for a future
Scroll
closure?
all the way to the top. I think I put a comment somewhere that maybe at the bottom that if we wanted to have a policy on suspension of policies,
Yeah.
We should just have a policy on suspension of policies that says that the board can grant the superintendent the ability to waive policies until it takes that away.
Yeah.
But I think that's theoretically inherent.
Yeah. And
Right.
I
It
think
is
that's already in
theoretically
our
inherent.
bylaws.
Yeah.
So,
It
I
is
mean,
theoretically
you know,
inherent.
to
I
the
don't know
extent
that
we
I would
wanted
want
to-
to say that.
right, to the extent we wanted to document it, that's as far as I'd be comfortable documenting. An affirmative vote of the board can give the superintendent that right. An
Yeah.
affirmative vote of the board can take it away.
Okay. So I think for now, what we're saying is hard pass.
Yep.
I'm going to say pass. Okay, good. All right. So that one closed.
And this is all exactly why I didn't want Sharon to list these specific policies on the agenda for
Right.
next week.
Yeah,
Because
I agreed. Yeah, who knows if we were even going to bring them to the
Yeah.
boards to discuss. Okay. Preference: face masks versus distance learning plan due to health-based closure.
you know, I think we have stuff to talk
Face
about in both.
masks.
Okay,
Face masks first.
face mask first because we think it's easy.
No, we don't think it's easy. It's just, it's got some things that we can clearly get rid of. So,
I agree. Good. All right. So we see Chris's note. Wish this wasn't COVID specific. Yeah. Seems we could have a policy that grants the super discretion to trigger a mask requirement when the interest of public health all without. I agree with that.
I think the whole preamble can come out. We can start with
Okay.
the definition section.
Any objection to that, Gwen,
None.
Maureen?
No,
Good. I'm gonna, and we're saying right here. Good.
yes.
Okay. I'm always
Except
keeping.
evidence shows that the proper mailing may stop the spread of the virus. We obviously do not need that from evidence to the closed parens period.
Yeah, because we're not defining face mask for its purpose. We're defining face mask for what it is.
Right. Right.
And then I don't
think-
love the definition of transportation because that's not really a transportation. That's not a definition.
Right.
That's now a mandate.
Can we stay on the face mask though for a minute?
Yeah.
So we-
Oh,
we have received guidance that would be relevant for a policy that face masks that include a valve or ventilation port are not acceptable
Yeah.
because they don't protect those around the wearer. They only make the wearers, they enhance the comfort for the wearer.
Right.
Okay.
And it's also the difference between the face mask and the shields is called out here, but then it's kind of ignored later in the policy.
It's a
And so-
significant difference because
Yeah, right.
we are not able to allow people to wear either or.
Right.
I've gotten many parent requests
Right.
for face shields and they are required to wear a face covering or mask.
Right. And
we
Unless
wanna
they have a
include-
medical exemption.
That's right. And if they have a medical exception, it doesn't mean, okay, then you don't need anything. The next step down is then let's try a face shield.
Right.
It's least restrictive environment, kind of.
Right.
The on the face mask covering, do we want to include the broad definition of what a face mask covering is, and then note that the administration may promulgate specific regulations as to size, style, and acceptable models, basically, so that if we specifically prohibit valves, then the next model that comes out is going to be equally, problematic, but might not be covered by the policy.
Mhm.
The
I just don't want to get
may-
boxed in.
The administration may
Promulgate specific design regulations with respect to
Promulgate.
face coverings.
Yeah. John, could you make the text just slightly bigger?
I'm sorry, I
Right,
keep
thank
doing
you.
that. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right, Maureen.
Thank you.
There we go. Specific
appreciate that.
design recommendations.
Part of John's word study every Friday.
Yes.
This is word of the week for me. That's really what this is. This isn't even a policy meeting. Promulgate. That's so good. I love it.
Should be requirements instead of recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Anything else? All right. I mean, we could leave it at that.
Period.
It makes
Yeah, yeah,
sense.
Keep it
Right.
short.
Okay. Do we need anything for face shields? Do we need the same sort of thing for the face shield bucket?
No, I don't.
Okay.
How does face shield differ from clear plastic barrier as it applies to people?
Very
Yeah, clear
different.
plastic that sits
Well,
on a
it's
table.
very
Individuals.
different. Yeah, the clear plastic barrier is essentially plexi, but they're not necessarily made of plexi, but that's really what it's referring to. So the barrier is what you see at the cashier.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, whereas the
The
face shield.
definition is lousy, though.
Right. It's a different layer of protection.
And
Is it,
following face covering and face shield, it appears to imply to me, at least initially, that it's 3 categories of covering for people.
Right. I think it needs to be clear that as using this policy, this isn't something that somebody wears around there. It's not a plexiglass box you're
Right.
walking around in. Like,
No, although lately I've been thinking.
yeah, that might work. So I know it's not necessarily affixed to anything because it could be a sort of temporary, it could be on a stand or something like that, and that it could be moved. But is there something about that it is somehow a structural element?
it's not a wearable.
Yeah, not wearable.
Right. Maybe placed on surfaces. I mean, I would also take out the word often because I think how frequently it's sanitized is kind of irrelevant.
Right.
Also.
Yeah. Okay.
A clear plastic or solid surface seems like a
Partition.
weird noun there too.
Not really
Yeah.
not a surface. It's
No.
typically a divider.
Right.
I mean, so the
divider
barrier is a
partition.
divider of some nature.
I wanted to define it as a barrier, but it's a barrier defining a barrier.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
guess
think
if
that-
you hear barrier, you think wall, and it's
Right.
really just to prevent, to create some type of a
Mhm.
division between
And it-
two breathing people.
You could think of it. I mean, would we put, say, a sneeze guard at a salad bar falls into that category?
It
Yeah.
does.
Okay, I think this fits. Cool. All right.
I mean, do you want to? I mean, so a clear plastic. Go back. Clear plastic or solid divider. I mean, can you make the argument that's part of a face shield?
Yeah,
theory?
I would indicate that this is not a wearable
Right.
item.
A non-wearable.
Can you just create two categories? One of the things that are wearables as opposed to.
We say this.
it's like
Yeah,
a-
that's fine.
Yeah, that just clarifies the
Yep.
potential confusion for the 0 people who are going to read this.
Well, there'll be someone on this topic. It is very timely. You'll get a
Yep.
read.
Yeah, I think we will.
I think you will get a read.
We should put something at the bottom that says, if you made it down this far, here's an Amazon gift card.
In case David gets bored with us, I just want to get into the conversation that Monday night, we have all 3 boards of ed meeting and we'll be presenting the reopening plan. And you can get to that link on www.er9.org. But we're not trying to rush you out of the room. Just-
Yeah, we love having an audience to
It's
hang in there
just
with
so
us.
rare.
Yeah, and we will have time at the end of the agenda as well for public comment. So if there's anything that you would like to to say, you'll have an opportunity at the end as well. And we try to go quickly through this, so I don't think this is going to be a 5-hour meeting. Okay,
Thank you. I'm Dave's wife, Rachel. We appreciate that.
absolutely. Okay, transportation.
Yeah, you're right. It's not a definition.
Right. I don't know why this
Yeah.
is in a definition section
Yeah,
at all.
yeah.
I mean, unless
think,
this is intended to be a new section and the
think
formatting
it
is just funky.
I think it's meant to be. I see these as meant to be sort of equal heading levels.
Right.
Yeah. See, because I can see it like this is tagged as heading 2. This is normal text and this is heading 2. They just didn't differentiate the size.
Yeah, not for nothing, I wouldn't lead the policy with a discussion of transportation.
Yeah.
That sort of buries the lead, which is thou shalt wear masks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So are we talking about sort of reordering it?
I would move that somewhere else. In fact, I made a comment later, why isn't there a discussion about wearing masks on buses? Because I had lost sight of the fact that it was even embedded up there.
I'm cutting it there. I'm gonna let's try to stay focused on just where it should be and not go into any one of these.
I think after school buildings and grounds, probably.
Perfect. School buildings and ground continued.
Yeah, maybe 4 breaks, because breaks is now a subset of when you can take it off, or before exceptions, basically.
Yep.
The general rule is you're wearing a mask. Here's the wear.
Got it. Okay, good. So now we're going back up to the top. Okay, we have our, I'm gonna, yeah, okay, we're good. We're good.
You want to delete face masks and covering continued.
Yeah, it's baffling to me. And this was, I checked, this is in the original PDF too. It makes no sense. Okay, good. is everyone in
I
agreement?
think now the personnel heading
Yep.
is completely at random.
It was always random. It made no sense. I mean, throughout this document, like they have this like random personnel
Who's a non-certified student?
Is it because it's a 4,000 series?
that this is in
Maybe.
the personnel certified, non-certified
Maybe.
section.
Maybe.
It's certainly possible. I can clean it up, you know, and look back and find a reasonable way to clean up those headings. But I think for now, if we're okay just leaving them, I'll fix them. So they're consistent with the rest of the 4,000 series. Okay. Here, just right, if we're
Yep.
saying face coverings, that completely cover, not
Yeah.
right, covers.
Yes.
Good. Even Google knew that. Okay. We didn't have any other comments there.
I would just take off per CDC guidance here because CDC guidance is constantly changing right now. And I just think for our purposes, an individual shall be excused for the following listed reasons and delete the per CDC guidance.
There may not even be a CDC by September.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm just questioning, thinking about students with special needs that might add an additional category to this group, depending on the student's needs, which are not necessarily medical and might fit into number 4, but maybe it's for another reason.
Does it talk about it further down the document? Special needs in particular
There's
as
a
its
whole
own sort of
separate
carve out?
area that does. But I thought you kind of had to dig for
Yeah.
that additional information.
Wouldn't it be in
It's
the
dig for a lot in this policy.
Wouldn't it be in the exceptions space? Right. There's a whole section further down with talking about exceptions, right?
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So
This is
why
sort of
would we
odd.
include this here then at all? If there's an exception section below, why are we listing the excuses here?
Yeah, I agree. And how do you excuse an unconscious person from not wearing a mask? I think that the exemption should be clear that it's due to either an emergency and a medical reason that's arisen, or you have prior medical exemption. I don't want the principals to be arguing with kids all day long, and they're citing this language, which is.
I mean, it feels like we should have a rule of general application that stands by itself, which is everybody in the building wears a mask, period, full stop. Next heading, exceptions to the above rule are. And you have to fit into one of these exceptions. This blurs it kind of.
Yeah.
And in theory, anybody under 18 doesn't have capacity.
Yeah.
So you could argue that they're all
Yes.
incapacitated.
I'm thinking about the organization of the document. Yeah, because okay, so we've got, there's actually quite a bit there on the exceptions, and then we have mass breaks, and we have limited exceptions here as well. So there's a bunch of duplicate or duplicated purpose language here.
So delete it from where it is, move it down for the time being, and we'll deal with this language when we get to the other set of exceptions.
Can we, I want to, what if we just make a call out? An individual shall be excused from this requirement according to the blah, blah, blah listed later in the document. I don't want people to sort of read this and go, like the anxiety level goes way up in these first few sentences if they're, anti-mask or whatever. And they don't.
You could start it with notwithstanding any other provision, herein, comma, all students shall, blah, 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 blah. Or subject to the exceptions listed in, below, all students shall.
I love that.
There you go.
Subject to the exceptions, because then it's the very first thing we say is like here, if you have a valid medical reason,
so the blood pressure doesn't have a chance to spike, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Subject to the exceptions listed. I want to say later in this document, but you're just saying below.
Herein.
Herein is fine.
Again, herein, that's such a weird.
We'll get you a Latin phrase before we're done today. That's
Oh, boy.
Okay. And then we're going to cut this
Yes.
part of it. And I think it goes further down. In addition, mask or face mask shall not be required for anyone who has a parents, guardians may not excuse. Are we bringing this with us?
I mean, I kind of feel like this entire, that after that sentence, before you get to the cut line, is that entire section of the policy.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole heading. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's, you know, carriage return, what's next? Transportation. Or, masks will be required on the buses.
Do we want the exception to be right here? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying
No.
that that's our main general rule. Our next general rule is with respect to buses. Then we start talking about exceptions.
Okay. We do have a
I
piece
suppose
here
you
about
could-
social
you-
distancing. I'm sorry, go ahead. Tom.
You could say that all face masks are prima facie, right?
There's your Latin phrase. Very good, Tom.
You get 3 points for that one.
Definitely.
That's way outside the arc.
Policy bingo.
Okay.
Okay. So are we moving this whole section? Parents or guardians may not excuse their child from the face mask requirement, or is this staying in because it's like it feels like it's attached to the exception part of this? I don't think like this part, in addition to wearing a face mask, the districts will maximize social distancing between students' workstations, unless our plan is to cut this whole section. I think this would be the next logical part to
I
follow.
mean, I've got lots of reservations with all those paragraphs as
Okay.
being kind of unnecessarily wordy and compelling us to do things that maybe we're not going to do.
Okay, I'm
I
going to put
think
it
you
back.
restate the parents may not excuse language, though.
I'm going to say exception stuff to move, and maybe we come back to this in a sec,
Mhm.
because I think maybe we need to bottom out on some of these other pieces of content to know how it's really going to flow. Agreed?
Agreed.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So, I'm sorry. I'm going to resize my window a little bit here. There we go. All right. Okay. No, a little bit more. All right, good. All right, good. That's super obnoxious. I'm sorry. I'm trying to manage the Zoom window so I can see you all and still see the document clearly. Okay, better. Okay. This section here, parents, guardians may excuse, and actually we have comment here. So let's look here. So we're saying strike, such as but not limited to difficulty breathing.
I'm saying insert bona fide on that. Oh yeah, strike the end of it, but the note should state the bona fide medical reason to the requested exemption.
Documented instead of bona fide.
Documented?
I think the note is the document.
Well, that's the point. You don't get people to dispute whether bona fide has a medical backup. Some individual's interpretation of bona fide, but we're getting down into the weeds here, people. So even my comment is in the weeds. So
Are we comfortable with bona fide? Medical reasons?
Happy with you. I just wanted to add some qualifier so that it's not,
Yeah.
And I don't know about the such as, but not limited to difficulty.
just
Breathing.
delete that.
We
Yeah.
don't need the example. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good. Done.
I think you want to say parents may not excuse their child from this requirement, because otherwise you're going to face that discussion. You don't need the rest of the language because such. You just want to state parents cannot excuse their kids.
Yeah, so we're just saying period.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about what the governor says. That's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's also variable.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Okay, good. Sorry, I want to make sure we hit this comment here. Can we reserve our rights to put someone into distance learning in this situation?
Like,
Interesting. What
what's
do you
the
think, Stephanie?
yeah?
if they refuse to comply with the policy requirement, I don't see that we would have another option, except we can't call it distance learning. We have to use the same term as the state, which is temporarily learning from home, I think is what.
Like temporary opt-out, or
No, it's not called an opt-out. I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some weird term of art they coined, but and it's not
But-
really exclusion.
But that's actually a common confusion, which is why I'm going to try and explain it on Monday night, which is
Right.
that the distance learning that people experienced in the spring is the same thing that parents will get if they choose not to participate in school. So if you refuse to wear a mask and there's no medical exemption, then it seems that you are then opting to provide instruction from home temporarily.
I mean, I guess the message question there is, do we have any recourse if somebody has a medical exemption to put them into temporarily from home, or do we have to accept them?
I think we have to accept them. I think that's an equity issue.
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So
I'm just looking for the term in my document. I'll get it.
And the ultimate arbiter of the validity of the exemption is whatever doctor signs off on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Temporarily engage in learning from home.
Yep. Yep. Temporarily learning from home.
okay.
Temporarily disengage from learning at school.
That's not what it says, Chris.
Okay. So, but this is right in the middle of the sort of note should state the bona fide medical reason. I don't think our intent is to say anything about that we're sending you to temporary, whatever, distance learning.
No, I wanted to kind of understand what the various remedies were and the extent to which we are bound by various levels of medical certification.
Yeah. Parents and guardians may not excuse their child from this face mask requirement. Do we want to say it there?
Somewhere. I don't care where.
Right. I think it's a relevant question because it's not simply a dress code violation that would be a matter of, well, don't do that again next time.
That's right.
Right.
Parents may, parents may elect to temporarily, to take advantage of the state policy regarding temporary learning from home.
I think you need to be stronger. I don't think you want to say may elect. I think you're basically saying if you're not going to comply with the policy, then the district will.
Or, I mean, students who do not comply with the policy shall be deemed to have elected temporary, engagement from home. Because we want to basically make it the default result of noncompliance. I mean, you could say, instead of noncompliance with the policy, it's students who do not or refuse to wear masks absent an exception. One of the limited exceptions herein, the policies will be, the family or the
Will be subject to disciplinary consequence up to and including exclusion from the schools.
I just think we don't want to make it seem as if the disciplinary consequence is, sort of a call home and then,
Right.
life
Right,
is usual.
we're-
Somewhere else in the document, it suggests we're basically going to place the kids in a dungean, aka the isolation room, which
Right,
of course
exactly.
in the policy.
I hate
but
that. I hate that
Right.
policy. It's terrible.
It was alarming.
Yeah.
to-
Yeah.
Yep.
But because we want to make sure we're creating two different tracks here. This is not you are passing notes in class infraction. This is
Right.
the public health, zero strikes,
Right.
policy.
Right.
Yeah.
I still don't love this, but I think we might want to keep working through it and come back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shall be deemed to have
I mean,
elected.
I guess the other thing is parents and guardians may not excuse their
Or-
children. How does that address students at Barlow who have reached the age of majority?
I'm sorry.
I'm wondering how that addresses students at Barlow who are 18, who are theoretically making these decisions for themselves.
Well, we say students who do
Right.
not. Or
I think
refuse.
we're
Okay.
okay on that, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. That covers 10-year-olds and 18-year-olds. All right. This is not our best language, but I think it will work for now. Okay. There we go. In addition to wearing a face mask, districts will maximize social distancing between students' workstations and desks. Okay. Sorry.
I would add endeavor to maximize.
Yes.
And here, this is a good example of CABE is writing this and they need a style sheet over there because a district cannot wear a face mask.
Yeah.
I mean, we could try, but it's,
Awfully large, yeah.
that would be a barrier at that point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We'll seek to maximize
Yep.
Endeavor, yeah.
your endeavor.
To maximize social
In addition
distance.
to requiring the use of face masks or requiring the,
React.
I mean, the guideline that frankly we're using is really 3 to 6 feet. 6 feet is optimal, but when setting up the classroom, we're looking at the distance between people is, if we had 6 feet, then we wouldn't be bringing people back at 100%. So
it's a do your best obligation, kind of.
Yeah, the next sentence can be struck, right? Space between the teachers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this going to be possible?
it's, what bothers me about this is that there are so many different layers of protection that will be in place in different setups, depending on what's appropriate for the child and the child's individual situation and the setting. So to state exactly what will happen, it just may or may not be accurate. So when it's not possible to have 6 feet or face covering, other layers of protection will be added. I mean, if you want to specify the layers of protection, it could include face shields, it could include a clear plastic barrier, it could include adding distance, it could include optimizing or enhancing the ventilation in a space. Those are all things that we are doing.
When I read this, what gets me concerned is the more specific we get as to requirements that are being imposed, the easier it is for one of the requirements to not be met. And
Right.
in the unlikely, event, now there's an outbreak in classroom X, and one of the students reports that, Mrs. Jones one time taught from 2 feet instead of 3.5 feet. Now we have a question about whether the policy was violated and how that all sort of flows downstream. Or if there's an emergency and the teacher has to separate kids or do something, where we're boxing ourselves in with specificity here, which is just what I'm skittish about.
The balance that I'm concerned about is I think people are also looking for some assurance through this policy.
Yes. Yeah.
That we are serious about this. We've thought this out clearly, and we're adhering to certainly state recommendations and maybe inserting our own that are.
Well, where does the policy language overlap with the reopening plan language? Because you can make the same argument about enforcing policies about food service for next year,
That's right.
or enforcing policies about everything else that's in the reopening plan. I think there's got to be a line somewhere. And this is the only policy we're talking about that really drills down on a reopening issue.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think a more general statement about that speaks to sort of enhancing health and safety by adding layers of protection is better than specifying if you're not doing this, you're doing that, because it really is, size of the room, et cetera. There are just so many variables that, I mean, I agree with what everyone said. You don't want to box yourself in by saying exactly what will happen, while at the same time, you do want to provide some detail to make people feel comfortable. And I would say this, in many ways parallels what will be stated in the reopening plan when that full narrative is complete.
Yeah, yes to all of that. And I think we early on, we talked about, wait, face masks, there could be an influenza outbreak. There could be any number of other issues that are not specific to coronavirus. And based on those, we may have to adopt different specific, ways to mitigate the health risks.
Right.
So
We want a policy that allows for turning on and off masking as the public health conditions in the future may require. So this doesn't necessarily collect dust forever as a one-time use thing.
Yeah.
And to the extent that any of these regulations are COVID specific, they should probably be delegated to the administration with respect to how to maximize the appropriate safety guidelines under a broad-based guide that allows for face masking to be implemented.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think it's more about identifying that, there are a number of measures that can be taken in any pandemic or, outbreak. And, we require that the administration follow the, sort of best practices that are recommended by, and I think we do have to figure out what authority we're pointing to. Who's going, who we can consistently, the next thing that happens,
Is it the local health department? Is it the state health department?
Right.
Is it
state, or we could say state and local health department best guidance, state and local health department, as well as CDC's best guidance about mitigation techniques.
Current guidance, because it does change.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think in addition to requiring wearing a face mask, the district will seek to maximize social distancing between student workstations and desks, achieving 6 feet. If there's an influenza outbreak and it's 8 feet, or something that is, 12 feet, I don't know that we necessarily want to say 6 feet here. I think achieving the appropriate distance, given the best guidance from appropriate,
right?
Good.
Maximize social distancing between students' workstations and desks in accordance with health official guidance or something.
current
State and
health-
local.
I'm going to build up local, state, and federal guidance. Are we concerned that there may be gross conflict between those?
Yes,
We'll say local and state.
yeah.
State and local policies. Good. Guidelines. Wow, it's writing itself for me now. I don't know what's happening. I didn't enable that, but I like it. Okay. Do we want to say teachers may be permitted to remove face covering or mask during instruction?
I think we probably need to indicate that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to define the terms of that.
To remove face covering or mask during instruction.
Well, it's really provided that additional distance or other mitigating solutions are implemented.
Given,
But I wouldn't, I mean, the detail here is not, it's not well written, and it's.
Provided appropriate mitigation strategies are also in place.
That
Yeah.
aren't
There you go.
there are two parts to this. It's based on the nature of the lesson. And so long as additional mitigating
Yeah.
factors can be employed, right? So
Right, this is where you don't want to get into the weeds, but I mean, the fact is that if a teacher is sitting still, I mean, the way the guidance states is if the teacher's in a static position, then a clear physical barrier might be appropriate, then also given a certain distance from a group of desks,
Right.
which is appropriate in some situations and not others.
the the person I'm thinking about in this whole context is the speech language pathologist who's got one kid in a small room. And she needs to see the kid forming the letters they're working on. And the kid needs to see her face as a model of expression. So that person has to have a barrier between them. And they can't always, the room might only be 8 feet wide. So I don't know that we could guarantee 6 feet or more.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where you're going to be more general. I mean, we're purchasing, as an example, not that this is going to be in our policy, but a number of staff members will wear clear plastic masks. And then in some spaces, especially a small space, there could be a face shield and an air cleaner and a plexi in place. And it just really depends on the space and the situation.
Right.
I have to step out for a minute. I'll be right back.
Yep. And quick time check. We're at 10:44. Do people have hard stops at 11? I'm good to stay for longer.
I can stay too.
I can stay.
Okay.
I need to leave at 11.
I have 11 o'clock.
Okay. Stephanie, are you able to stay?
I can stay for a bit.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to kick us in the rear a little bit. Are we good? Are we good?
Moving along.
Yeah. I think is everyone comfortable with the?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So
And
which,
then delete this.
Yep.
And you can leave the transparent can be considered as an option. It effectively says the same thing.
Yeah, this face shields question.
Yeah, the face shields language, I think, has got to go if you're promoting masks over shields, period. So,
I think that, but they're specifically calling out that it's the step down, right? Of the, okay, if you have a valid medical exception or, there's a behavioral reason or whatever else, then you can consider this instead.
Why don't we
Let's
just
say
put
that.
in the exception section, here's, the medical exception. If you are subject to a medical exception, you'll be expected to wear a face shield.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Hold on. I just want to make sure we don't lose that. I'm actually going back up for this exceptions stuff. That's interesting. Good. Here. Okay, so this is the end of the exception stuff. All right, good. Yeah, we can ignore that. I'm going to fix the strange headings, or at least make them prettier. Okay, board shall provide to any student, staff member, or visitor face mask. If such. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, I read through all of this and I commented where I saw something. Chris, Maureen, Gwen. Yeah. I mean, are you comfortable with all this, or Stephanie, have you had a chance to review this as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so we're moving. Okay.
will this be the pattern, Stephanie?
Sorry?
Will this break be built into the day?
Well, the break, frankly, is when kids are eating.
Okay.
Or when they are having instruction or playground time. Those are the breaks.
Okay, so not throughout the day.
I would say maybe scheduled throughout the day, just instead of shall.
Right.
Because it almost reads as if the teachers are going to say, okay, now for fun, everyone take off your masks and we're going to do jumping jacks. That's just not.
Yeah, circle time.
It's not like it's a fun.
But
it's just times, frankly, it's really, as opposed to a mask break, it's really, I know that the state document says mask break, but it's times in the day when masks are not required. And they're, sort of for obvious reasons.
So delete from breaks to mobility and just start with the next paragraph.
You're basically talking about limited duration mask exceptions.
You know what? We can call it that, right? I think that's a much better. I I mean, mask breaks, like, what does that mean, right? Limited duration mask exceptions.
Sure.
Sure.
Um,
Except I would say that it almost reads in some ways like the temporarily learning from home. I mean, this is part of the regular schedule. A student's regular schedule will include, I mean, so maybe that just needs to be stated in
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
narrative below.
we could say regularly scheduled or as a part of students' regular
Yeah,
schedules.
it's really a part of their regular schedule.
I hate this. As a part of students' regular, I'm going to put that on regular schedules.
Maybe.
Breaks from
Shall to may.
so, but is that true?
Well, but no, everyone eats. I mean, we're required to
I think
provide food service.
I think it's
Well, then
shall.
we got to get rid of by the teacher.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
It's really a function of the schedule, frankly.
This is period, right? And then no comma.
Right? I think you want to keep the language about distancing,
Yep,
at least in some form.
yep.
Otherwise, you're implying that it just doesn't matter sometimes.
Mhm.
Okay. Good with that?
Yeah.
During time of eating?
Who says that?
No
During time
one.
of eating. What do we actually
During time
call
of
that?
sleeping, I lay down. I'm like, what's that?
Mealtime.
Change
When eating.
feasting.
When eating.
Time of eating.
While eating?
While eating.
I mean, it's interesting. It says may be removed. I don't know how you eat with it on. I mean,
Well, I mean, I think we want to, there's one sort of caveat here from the thinking the other side of this issue of if a kid's got a snack at his or her desk and it's like, well, now I'm going to eat a carrot, mask gets to come off. Are we being strict about when kids can be eating to only during meal times and things like that? Because that's all kind of built into that. During
Yeah.
scheduled meals and snacks or something.
yeah,
And
I think at
scheduled
the
time
high
of
school
eating.
level, how much snacks are scheduled is probably a little hard to say, but certainly at the younger levels, snack is a part of the scheduled day.
Well, I mean, at the high school, maybe a part of it is that they should schedule snack time if the intent is that the students are going to be wearing masks all the time. They can't just choose, now I feel like eating cookies and
Right.
therefore I'm taking off my mask in the middle of everything.
I'm walking down the hall between classes. I'm going to eat a granola bar while I'm walking.
Right.
If everyone's doing that, what's the point?
Hmm.
Yeah. You can't have the food exception that's the massive
Right.
loophole to everything.
I eat a peanut every day because that allows me to not have a mask. Is a problem.
Yeah.
Well, they may at Barlow they may end up having no food except for,
Right.
during that community time after second period or whatever it's called. When
Yeah,
people go get
that
muffins.
time has been discontinued. So
Schedule.
it'll just be a regular passing time specifically so kids can't congregate in the hallways.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they're probably going to just have to have no food except in
Except
the cafeteria
Yep.
Yeah.
or however it ends up being.
Yeah, I think we're covered here. I think
Yeah, we
everybody
just have to be careful about
We're
that.
saying
And no
schedule.
more like Spanish cultural day where you bring in fajitas or something. That
Now I'm thinking about fajitas. Thank you. Okay. So we're good with this, right?
Yes.
Part of students'
Yes.
regular schedules and during scheduled meal and snack time. Okay. Good. Yeah, so this part this is baffling to me.
So this is tricky because it really has to do with the layout of the playground.
Right.
In terms of the determination of how many classes. It just seems very arbitrary that it says a class, because classes could
Right.
be lots of different sizes and the playgrounds vary. So
That's right.
it's really about providing appropriate distance in the outdoor setting to
A recess period maybe uses a break from wearing masks in the discretion of the administration, as the
That's good.
circumstances may allow.
Yep,
Yeah, that's better.
as circumstances may
is-
allow.
It's really about keeping the cohort separate.
Right. And every building is different and every need is different. And this recognizes that recess is a time without providing any sort of restraint.
Is that what we're saying?
Yes,
Yeah, perfect.
Good. Violations of this policy. This I disagree with.
Yeah. And this is where I noted that I seem to have forgotten that we had any language on buses and also didn't like this.
Yeah. We're not treating this in the same manner as other violations of applicable.
No, I think my suggestion is that you just make an affirmative statement that the administration retains its authority to address violations of this policy. I mean, so there are consequences, including if you defiantly refuse to put on a mask, we can send you home.
Are we spelling that out here, or are we waiting for people who intend to defy the policy to ask the question, or to defy the policy and then see?
I don't want to say what the consequence is. There's a continuum.
Yep.
Right? So
Okay, so retains its authority to.
Are you having a time of eating, Tom?
I'm
yes.
sorry, I'm eating my breakfast I bought 2 hours ago. I'm having a time of eating. Yeah.
Time of eating. The administration retains its authority to.
Assign appropriate consequences for infractions of policy.
I'm usually a faster typist. These documents are like delayed, so I don't know if it got the letter. I'm just saying.
Okay, it's okay. We thank you for your effort here. It's Herculean.
Okay, violations. Okay, so that's bye-bye.
You had 30 people watching you type yesterday afternoon, so this is better.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sorry, I do have to sign off.
Thank you, Tom.
Good work. I'll see you next week.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go in a second too, so I might as well go so I don't interrupt again.
Gwen, do you have any thoughts on the distance learning policy generally, before we pivot to that?
I will completely trust your judgment.
All right. Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you,
We all
guys.
make mistakes. All right.
Don't make any mistakes.
You may be vesting us with too much cred there.
Yeah.
Never.
We'll try to do you proud. All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay. This is so buses. We come back to that.
Yeah. And I think this is covered now by
We're good.
vesting. Yeah, we're good.
Yep. Okay. Good.
And I think all this probably goes now.
Yes, there's my favorite statement about students will be sent to the isolation room.
This is
In
why
restraints.
And, you know,
like-
they're not wearing any face covering, but we're just going to send them on their own to.
The isolation room is 3 miles away. Go take a walk.
Yeah, and isolation. I know it's not. I mean, I suspect it's not as much an issue in our district, but this, isolation rooms in particular have been used horrendously in some districts. So
That's
no.
the city of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that term is really used in a lot of the state documents. I mean, I think we're really considering them sort of the nursing room B or
Right.
you know.
The nursing annex.
They're certainly not going to be labeled isolation room.
Right. Okay. So conform to plan language. So we're saying
Whatever we're calling it,
what
or
do we know
take
what
it out
we're
entirely.
calling it? Are we calling it the quarantine room? Or are we calling it?
No, it's really referred to as an isolation room because it's taken from the state language.
Right.
I mean, if we change it, we just have to explain its purpose, but then I think we just have to be clear that it really is intended to be a space where only an ill patient would be held for a short duration. I mean, our guidance is up to 30 minutes. I mean, the parents, and the more important thing here about the isolation room is that every parent really needs to have a plan in place for a very speedy pickup.
Who's going to get my kid and if I get the isolation room call?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so can we go down the line of something like such students shall be sent to the student's designated area for like, I think a moment ago you said the purpose of it and it didn't sound creepy or
Is nursing room B or something like that?
Yes,
Well,
yeah.
well, but you actually described the purpose of it, and I thought that was good. And I think if we just, I think it's like 4 or 5 words here where we're describing the purpose of the room.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly what I said. I mean, in this case, you're talking about non-compliance with the policy. So they're being, the students will,
I mean, you could just say the school's designated area to await parent pickup.
to await parent, but I think that works.
You know,
Because whether it's the isolation room or not, it really doesn't matter. It just has
Right.
to be spaced by themselves.
That's
with
good.
the picnic table out front is this like,
Outside would probably be the safest place, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, for this, but maybe not other things.
and then this sentence is not English.
We can kill it.
Just
Oh,
delete
it's not
this
English. The parent/garden shall be contacted to rectify the situation. Okay.
No, I mean, we're saying parent pickup. That's the how they're-
Right.
That's
That's the
enough.
remedy.
Yep, that's enough.
No.
You want to say prompt parent pickup, you can do that, but that's like
That's good.
immediate.
Okay, immediate.
I mean, it
Do you
really
wa-
would be.
You want 30 minutes or do you
I
want a
want-
duration?
I want within 30 minutes. I mean, that's what our
Okay.
nursing coordinator is saying.
All right,
Do we want to spell that out? To await parent pickup within,
What
Which-
happens if they don't do it?
we get mad?
right.
Okay. All right. If a visitor refuses to wear a face covering for non.
I'm not sure we need an exemption for visitors.
we do not. Entry may be denied. There.
Period. Full stop.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in reasonable accommodations. People don't need to be in the building anyway. We can accommodate them outside.
Are we?
Just delete for non-medical reasons. Entry
No, I
may be
get,
denied.
I get what we're proposing. Are we running afoul of ADA or something?
We can do meetings remotely. So
Okay.
there's, if there's a reason why someone with a medical exception would need to participate in some type of a meeting, then we provide access remotely.
Right. There's no obligation to, I mean, we're effectively saying the school is closed to anybody who's not in the immediate school community.
Yeah.
And so,
And-
to suggest we're allowing visitors at all, we can impose whatever additional requirements that we want,
And-
as long as we can accommodate them in an alternate manner.
and
So
we're
if a
saying may.
parent needed to drop off or pick up a student and the parent had a medical exemption that precluded them from wearing a mask, I think that's a phone call to the school, and then the school staff escorts the
Yeah.
child outside to meet the
Right.
parent.
You release them in a different manner, and that's
Right.
fine.
And it says may, so we're good.
Do you want this at all? Teachers may provide incentives for compliance.
No,
hate
no, I
this.
hate that. That's
The worst thing
with
What are we doing? Giving away Hershey's Kisses?
I tell you, on the
and violating our
That-
wellness policy then.
in the CABE discussions, when I started asking questions about how other districts are going to handle mask compliance and discipline, the responses I got were just gamify it and treat
Yeah.
it like, there hasn't been a workplace injury here in 32 days. Aren't we great? And let's celebrate each day. I was like, no.
First off,
No,
we don't
incentive is
need
not
to
in
enshrine
keeping
that
with-
in policy.
Right.
Like, if you
Delete
want-
this.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move on.
Thank you. Feels good to delete certain lines.
Yes.
Question, DDH? Yeah.
What is DDH?
I think it's
know.
supposed to be Department of Public Health. I think
Probably
it's
DPH. Yeah. that's-
DPH.
Oh, okay.
That makes more sense. I
And
was
DPH
racking my
was-
brain about DDH.
I mean, DPH is certainly relevant.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure we need these sort of
Yeah,
ideas.
this is repetitious.
Well, but wait, we are saying that the school needs to have disposable face coverings.
And
Is
we've
that
said
regulation?
that in that they'll provide them, haven't we?
Yes.
Unless you want a certain amount of stock on hand.
I didn't remember the place earlier where we said that we would provide them. Did we say that?
It's in here somewhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I can
If
tell you that
student
we
doesn't
are
have, yeah.
stocking a 30-day supply, so
Okay.
we certainly have.
Special attention was given to putting on and removing face. Okay, so that we're getting into some of the implementation of the policy that we generally steer.
This feels regulation-y.
Yep.
Yes.
Agreed. Okay.
And
Yeah,
in
that's right.
particular, about the way it looks specifically in the cafeteria, that's too detailed.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I will say parents are going to be curious about that, and we should do everything in our power to be transparent. I mean, I
And we
think
have a plan. So
Right.
that will all be part of not only a written plan, but most likely at the elementary level, certainly videos that walk a student through what that process will entail.
When we talked at the beginning about guidelines for the types of masks, do we want to put anything in there that reserves our right the same way with respect to dress codes about styles, language, and imagery on masks?
This is going to be very relevant this year.
You think so?
I trust your guidance on this.
So-
I mean, I can think of lots of statements about
Yeah.
belief that will be on masks.
Right. You'll have masks advocating political candidates. You'll have masks with.
I think we already cover it though in other policy.
Right. So
Well,
they're going to, I mean, the free speech idea versus disruption to the school day.
I don't
Do-
think we
do
need to
we-
read into that.
I think you might say that in the
Exist-
regulation, in the discussion above about how the administration has discretion to write regulations about styles of masks, basically, you also might want to cross-reference the limitations on dress and expression in the other policies and say, styles of mask shall also be subject to those limitations. Like you're not coming with a pot leaf on your mask, that sort of thing.
Right. Right. Or frankly, any other style that would create a substantial disruption to the learning environment.
And I can think of dozens of ways in which
Yeah.
You can do
that are in many ways benign, not political.
I mean, you're going to have a student who cuts a hole in the mask. You're going to have like these.
I've seen streamers and sparklers and very, very fancy things that are a lot of fun for outside of school.
I know we put it in here. I know we said the word design. There you go.
Mhm.
Promulgate specific design requirements, covering both form and or covering both function. No. Damn. Covering the physical and aesthetic design. Or we're just putting a different thing here. We're saying, in addition, existing dress code policy, like
All existing dress code policies shall also apply to masks.
That works.
Just so there's no confusion, there's no doubt that we're also looking to have a permissible level of control over the content.
Yep. Good. Okay. Okay. So let's go.
Now
to-
other considerations can largely go.
Yep. Special attention when medically appropriate, nurses shall face shields with face masks may be used by staff who
I
supports.
think the last bullet is one that I don't think we've covered elsewhere, which is unmasking exemptions for staff who are alone.
Private offices. Yep. Yep.
So I don't know if that fits into the exemptions somewhere. Like it doesn't. It
You could
hangs
leave
there.
it here,
Yeah.
not to
Yeah,
overwork the
I mean, I'll
task.
just say that every one of the bullets that was here are all a part of what we're planning to do. It's just a question of how detailed you need your policy to be.
Yeah, it doesn't belong in, I think it's fine here to protect, to say like we are specifically calling out that in an individual's office, they're permitted to do this. But I think the others were talking about implementation. That's a level we stay out of with policy. Okay, good.
Good.
I hated this paragraph. A policy should never be until further notice. The policy should have a mechanism for implementing it and de-implementing it.
I mean, isn't it? And we're not talking about the board requiring it. I think we're talking about the superintendent or their designee.
No, I mean, I think that's sort of the
policy.
question. Like, who gets to activate the policy and who gets to deactivate the policy?
Yep.
And this further notice of the board thing is nonsense.
Yeah.
Given the typical timeline that we implement with respect to policy revisions, we could all be masked in the year 2050.
Yeah, get comfortable.
We are doing a better job, Stephanie. This group has moved this along at unbelievable speed by comparison. I think you just delete this in entirety, folks. You don't need this.
Yeah,
Just
I think that's
take
right.
it out.
Yeah. Good.
Yep.
And then go to the very beginning of the policy and make sure that it's not a mandatory policy. Because right now it says, I think it might say that the administration shall require masks. And that's not a permanent policy.
Right. Okay. So, and then we have to find a home for our exceptions section, but
right. This just says everybody will wear a mask. That's the operative form of the policy. And so unless we're going to repeal the policy when the health emergency is over, which I don't think we're trying to do, we need a mechanism for who gets to declare that these rules are enforced.
I think we take this guy and we cut it and then we make it good up at the top here, right? Shouldn't this be at the beginning?
Implementation. This policy may be activated.
Activated?
I'm trying.
That sounds like a movie term.
Right, you go DEFCON
Activate the
3
Power
on
Rangers.
masks. That's
Right. Just keep the first sentence until further notice, the wearing of masks is required. And the board we will reconsider this policy in 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever timeline you want to put on it, and then tickle it and say in that period of time, we're going to have a conversation.
But I think it's better to have a policy that is more evergreen than until further notice.
Is it possible that we could do something like that, Maureen, where we kind of say the following policy shall be implemented at the discretion of the superintendent or
There.
Yeah.
Do you want that though? Is that discretion for the superintendent to go, rogue from state and local law?
consistent with guidance from state and local,
Fine.
state and local law and the Board
Whatever
of
you said
Education.
before.
Yeah.
I think you said state and local guidelines or guidance.
Yep. Good.
Do we want to say at the discretion? Could we just say the following policy shall be implemented appropriately by the superintendent consistent with guidance from state and local health guidelines?
Timely.
It's a softer form of at the discretion of.
Sure.
Are we okay with that? Yeah.
Yep.
I think I already feel like appropriately is not going to work.
Yeah, I think it might be a judgment. As needed.
Okay.
I like as needed.
consistent with public health circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, it's really as
required by the
imposed by-
public state of public health, like
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right.
as required by public health conditions in the community, like.
Following policy should be implemented as required by public health conditions within the community. Do we just want to end it there by the superintendent?
Yep,
We're good?
yes.
Okay. Okay. We need to find a home for exceptions. So exception stuff to move.
John, can you go up to that face shield piece for a second? So I know that this is just a the purpose here is to provide a definition, but I can tell you that this is an area of confusion for parents, the face mask or a face shield. And I know that we say somewhere else that it's only a face mask, but I just forget it. I mean, it's a definition. You're not saying what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Yeah, not yet. And people will have to refer. Okay. Exceptions to move. We're going from there to here. Okay. We want this, so we have implementation of the policy, definitions of different pieces of this. Subject to the exceptions listed herein, all students and visitors are required to use face masks covering to completely cover their nose and mouth. That's good. Parents, guardians may not excuse their child. Fine, fine, fine. Transparent masks should be considered an option for teachers, school buildings and grounds, transportation. Limited exceptions. I just cut a section about exceptions. We have a section here. So I think where we have limited duration exceptions and then exceptions entirely from the rule. Is that right? No. Eating, drinking, these are all the same stuff.
Well, one is going to apply every day and one is going to apply situationally.
Yeah, you might want to change the
Yeah.
wording to the header of the mask is limited duration mask.
Yep. I'm gonna.
Regularly scheduled.
Or would
I'm
you
gonna-
just make it one section? Take
Yeah,
the
I
header
think that's
out?
right. I think that's right. And I've got, these are sort of health exceptions, but let's first talk about these limited exceptions. Okay.
And then limited duration mass exceptions header gets deleted, and those 5 paragraphs are all one section.
Yep. And then I think we might have some.
Just redundancy.
Yeah.
There's always redundancy in these things.
Yep. Okay. I think this is kind of a preamble to this section. Okay. I like, I know it's a little bit more specific than, but I like this section. Are people okay with these 2 paragraphs?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like we don't need this stuff now.
I mean, that is Yeah.
Right,
When you
like
talk
this
about masks
is-
being required when entering and leaving the dining area, we're getting awfully operational and regulation-y.
Yeah. So I think we either kill these two paragraphs and leave these, although sorry, the teachers and staff, we'll come back to that. I think we either kill this paragraph and leave these, or kill these and leave this.
The first paragraph provides language that gives latitude to special ed students.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who the other special populations would be.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems to be an exception you could drive a truck through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, children who have just turned 3.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know. I like the top paragraph more than I like this paragraph here.
Yep.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yep.
Okay. Teachers and staff may be during scheduled mealtime, snack time, face mask covering may be removed. Masks are
I
required.
mean, I want to say the exception for eating shall only apply during a scheduled meal and snack time.
Yep.
But that might be too restrictive. I just want to make sure we're not creating more problems than we're solving.
Well, there are also times when instruction outside would allow students to take off a mask.
Right.
Or if
Right.
there's
It refers to
12
outside up front. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, outside, or if there's 12 feet distance between students, they could be singing, as an example. Because this comes up specifically related to woodwind instruments and singing.
Right. If we add the word scheduled up here, scheduled eating, drinking during physical education classes or when students are outside and effectively practicing social distancing, can we lose this one and just keep that first paragraph?
I think that's probably fine.
Yeah.
I think you've already said it.
Yep.
And then the last paragraph can go too. I think that's implied from.
Yep. Can I change this to while to during?
Yes.
Then we have during again. I don't know. I hate this. I hate wordsmithing. Regarding wear face masks or coverings at scheduled. No. While, during.
Leave it, John, and move
I would
on.
say you could change while to during and then take out the next during
That's right.
because it's still modified.
Yep. Fine. It's not perfect. It
No.
works. It's clear, right?
Yes.
And then we lose the a recess period paragraph.
Yep.
Because now we've provided this broad level of
And I would say I actually think the heading that we had before about limited duration exceptions, I think
duration.
I think it's better here, right, to have duration in the, because this is not about like you are an exempt person because of these things. This
Right.
is more,
It's an exception, not an exemption.
yeah. Although this part, exceptions may also be necessary for special needs, but that's okay because we're going to address that more specifically below.
And that's still true. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can take your mask off only for speech therapy, but then you put it back on. Like,
Right. Okay. Okay. So now, individual exceptions,
medical exemptions.
Medical exemptions as opposed to exceptions.
Right.
Yep. Exempt. That's a weird word.
EMPT.
I'm sorry?
I was just
EMPT.
spelling it. EMPT.
I'm not hearing anything. Is that right?
Lose the C.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad we're recording this.
This is what's going to play in the isolation room, John.
Oh, no.
All right. The individual, trouble breathing, conscious. Okay, so we were.
Pick me up faster.
I'm sorry?
Pick me up faster. I'm listening to this meeting.
Okay. Individual shall
Going to
be.
delete is unconscious.
And I'm not sure about, I might have to say physically incapacitated.
Yeah, that would cover both of these, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
React.
And I'm not trying to overcomplicate things, but when we talk about exemptions, really we're talking about you have a doctor's note, you don't have to comply.
Right.
These are back to exceptions, which is somebody's having an acute issue.
Right.
Fair.
So this part almost goes in the exceptions above.
Yeah.
In the event of an acute medical emergency, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
It's also a limited duration exception.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we need this heading here right now.
I think we need it eventually, but not that.
Right. That's it. Not right there. That's right. I learned to spell exemptions for no good reason. It's terrible. Okay.
You want to delete the per CDC guidance no matter what.
Yeah.
Shall be
Stephanie-
temporarily excused, and I would say temporarily excused from this requirement if the individual is having trouble breathing, is physically incapacitated.
Good.
Sure.
Yep.
And I would take out the in addition preface now, because that's
Yep.
dangling. And it should just say mask or face coverings no longer sort of complies with, how would we define this above?
What do you mean?
In the definitions, it was like face covering / mask. We should apply the same
It's the
term
same.
that we defined.
It's the same. We do it in a different order above. I think we do
Okay.
face coverings or masks. I think in
Because
the
a face covering is not a face shield by the definition, because
Right.
we also want to say that
That's
face
right.
shields are the next step here. Okay.
that's correct.
Do we want to make the nurse coordinator the gatekeeper? Do we want to leave it silent? And who is the one who is required to receive and document these things? Because right now it says the board, and I'm not really interested in having a board meeting about doctor's notes.
No, I mean, frankly, it would be the nurse in any building, not necessarily the nursing coordinator.
Can we say appropriate health authority per building?
Yep.
Or the nursing coordinator or his or her designee.
Yes, I mean, because I suppose the absence of either of those two people, it would be a member of the school administration.
To approve a medical exemption.
Okay. Sorry, quick time check. I know we're at a half hour. I'm good till 12:30, although I don't know if anybody else.
You got me for 15 more minutes.
I
Okay.
think we're close on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm meeting with first student at noon, so I need
Okay.
to be present in that meeting.
Okay. Okay,
I think
so
you can delete the exception stuff, John, and if you want to move on away from the mask policy for
Yeah.
the remaining
I was
period
gonna
of
say,
time.
why don't we
so
jump
can get
over-
some input?
Yeah, jump over to the other policy, and then John, we can go back and wordsmith this to the extent we need to. My only concern is
I
to
think
the
we're actually
extent we
done
want
with
to take formal committee action to recommend policies, we need to do it while we have a quorum,
that's right. Agreed.
which
Okay.
we'll lose when we lose Maureen.
Agreed. Okay, here we're looking at the distance learning plan. So we only have 2 documents now. We said one of the 3, get rid of it entirely. Don't even think about it. Here we're looking at this document. Maureen, you're saying delete all historical context.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, of course.
Okay,
Absolutely.
inclusive of this stuff. So I mean,
Yes.
essentially,
I don't want a Gallup poll result in my policy book. This is nonsense.
Why anyone put this in here? Maybe they've needed filler. Go
Yeah.
on.
they said 1,000 words. So
Yeah,
wow. All of the context. I'm
gone.
still going.
Here we are.
Yep. Okay, I'm just gonna. Okay. Good. Okay.
So I have a broad policy question on the policy. Is this this is written for the purpose of COVID, talks about health emergencies. Do we conceive of having a distance learning policy in place for broader issues that are not necessarily health emergencies? You know,
I
if
think that
we-
raises too many questions right now, Chris. I think we stick with our problem. We solve our
Yeah.
COVID-related problem right now.
I think the answer is yes, but for now we have to focus on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be very supportive of talking about that kind of stuff, but yeah.
We'll schedule that for third quarter 2023 policy work.
Already scheduled. Okay. Don't tell us what you will do, just do it. Love it.
Yep.
Okay, so
Need language like that.
where do we want to?
Take the whole paragraph out.
Cool.
I mean, the next sentence is kind of goofy too, but
Yeah, I guess I would be interested in the bare minimum that the policy needs to state with respect to distance learning, because there's a certain overview that will be in common for all 3 districts and all levels, but so much of it is specific to the school.
Do we need this first sentence?
No.
We don't need it.
No,
Do we need to define what a distance learning day is?
probably.
Okay.
yeah,
And we have A, aligned to the curriculum, B, connected to standards, C, relevant to the current instructional sequence.
that's
So
fair.
in our work this spring, we made a point of always capitalizing distance learning, because different terms are sort of thrown around. So this is going to be relevant this fall in terms of the temporarily learning from home and then distance. So distance learning to me really refers to our official district plan when we are fully in
Full
distance.
close.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
you'll,
delete that blue.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. And okay, so now where distance learning school days will run as detailed in the section below. I think that's good.
Right. I mean, just know that we haven't even started to formally negotiate this with the associations because they're so
Right.
focused on their concerns about reopening, period.
Right. No, agreed. And frankly, that's going to be a part of it, right?
So the
Is-
detail of the schedule, when they start talking about the exact hours, I think we should remove all of that.
Oh, for sure.
To me, the sort of question is, to what extent does the policy exist to provide a starting point for that negotiation? You know, where does that fit in the negotiation process? Is this here's what we're doing, now you get to talk to me about what that means, or are we having the negotiation and then implementing a policy?
Oh, but yeah, I mean, even, you know, we're if we take this policy to each of the three boards and say, here's what we're proposing, it doesn't change the fact that we're going to need them to react to it. So
Right.
whether we're recommending it in
Doesn't
policy,
matter.
yeah,
Hmm.
they still need to react to it, and we would need to amend it. I guess the difference is that we don't need to amend this policy if we haven't approved it yet.
All right, to get back to the content of it,
Yep.
where it says, oh, okay, we're still on that paragraph.
Yeah, I have a problem with that second paragraph for a number of reasons. So I mean, it's not, the teachers will be available. I mean, we really want the teachers to be actively providing instruction, not simply be available. It's the be available is more under the category of office hours.
Yeah.
I would almost take it all out.
Yeah, I don't know if we even
It's
need
not, it's
that.
not policy direction, it's operational and regulatory.
Correct. I don't know what's going on. My selector is being all weird. There we go. Goals.
I mean, this is all from the state guidance.
I mean, I would,
I don't disagree with it, but I don't know if it needs.
I'm not sure it's policy, and even if it is, pandemic is a specific term of art, and I would say public health emergency.
Right,
Even if
I
we're
would
just going to
agree with
limit it to
that.
health.
Can we, I mean, do we need any of these goals of the distance? Can we?
I
just-
don't think so.
No. And that one. Yeah, it all got really super specific from here to the
Mhm.
point where it was problematic. It was, we're going to give packets to 5th graders and we're going to have laptops for 9th graders. It was like, oh no, please no.
Right.
I'm not interested in long-term hand tying on what that is.
Right.
We basically want to say that we approve of and direct the administration to have a distance learning plan for circumstances where that's required, like a public health emergency. It's almost period, full stop at that point. Everything else is regulatory, operational, or administrative prerogative.
Or law. I mean, the whole section
Yeah.
under special education and then also food service is, you know, it basically says we're going to follow the law.
Well, most of our policies just say we're going to
That's,
follow the law.
yeah, and I think that would be appropriate to keep in, but
Yeah.
this is not. This is not law. So the board approves. I think this general language coming after this first part, the board approves. You said something about the administration to.
The board directs the administration to create and maintain a distance learning plan to enable continuity of education during a public health emergency.
I like that language.
Well, do you want to specify the public health emergency if we might decide at some point down the road that we should reconsider the way we do snow days currently?
Right.
That was my broader question
Right.
about whether this policy should be distance learning health or distance learning broadly.
Well, I think it's safe to say it a little bit more broadly, and then we can use this policy in both places.
Right. Try continuity of educational services when school facilities are closed.
I like it.
Good.
Good.
Do the facilities have to be closed?
I mean, it gets into define closed because they might be open to administrators, but not to students.
Right.
Right, right. And so in the sort of hybrid model, we're not fully closed, and yet the intent, frankly, is to provide more of a distance learning within small group instruction when the
Right.
students are at school. So
Or continuity of educational services when normal school operation is unavailable, or
is modified.
or just when circumstances require.
I like that a lot.
You know, that's broad enough for a million things.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. And now, are we going down to?
The great delete.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're doing a big delete here, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And are we? There was a part, Stephanie, you mentioned that tied to law and our adherence to the law. I think that those are generally the sections that we would keep.
Right, so. I mean, I actually think that the short portion that talks about harassment, intimidation, and bullying will be of a special importance, but I don't know that it needs to be stated in policy. It's number 6 that talks about school nutrition benefits.
Okay.
I don't like the detail of it, frankly, because that's not actually how we're implementing the plan, but we will continue to provide meals. I mean, it's really following what we typically do. The modification is that the manner in which we're doing it to allow appropriate distancing and health and safety protocols.
Is this first
But
part
it's
any
not-
student?
No, I mean, it's not afforded the opportunity to pick up. I mean, we're providing students.
Can we say just shall be provided?
So it's not just the meal. So at the high school level, students can also get breakfast. Well, I guess so. Nice, it's a meal. I mean, it's access to the food service.
Can we say any student who receives free and reduced school meals will be provided with access to the food service?
Everyone is, though. It's not just kids who I mean,
Yeah.
all students. All students will be, I mean, basically we are still providing our typical, for the most part, I mean, some modified selection of meals to make things move faster. But we're still adhering to all of the requirements under the federal regulations for food service provision.
Here's where I question in a snow day. If you're trying to apply this to a snow day, are we providing free and reduced lunches on a snow day?
No.
Not for a single day, certainly.
Right. So I think what's the trigger for continuity of school lunch in a distance learning posture? Is it once it hits multiple days, once it?
It's a good question. I mean, certainly in the spring, we were providing meals to anyone under the age of 18
Right.
who.
But not on day one of the closure. It took a while to get that running, and it wasn't every day, and it was like.
Right.
So there's all sorts of nuance to this that I just don't want to tie hands with.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, you could just say the
Extended closure, I mean, as opposed to specifying.
during an extended distance learning period, the district shall continue to comply with all state and federal, food service requirements.
Yes.
Mhm.
With all, I need that last part again.
State and federal food service requirements. Food service.
Okay. Stop it. Good. I like that. Man, I mean, I'm just saying we should get some money back from CABE.
Yeah.
I think we could give this back to them and be like, here's,
You
here's
just joined the other day. It's
That's true. All right. Time check. Are we?
Time
only-
check, I'm gonna have to exit. We've got
And then-
11:42,
Right,
so
Maureen, then I want to make a motion to recommend the mask policy as drafted by the ER9 Policy Committee for consideration by the tri-boards.
Second.
seconded.
Oh, Maureen seconded.
All in favor, aye.
Aye. Good.
So,
Okay.
the
Um,
formal action. Look at
So
that.
good for distance learning. We've got many more pages unless we're saying, is there anything, Stephanie, that you saw in addition to school nutrition benefits that we need to look at here?
I mean, most of it I thought should be removed because
Yeah.
I mean, special education, of course, we're still following FAPE.
Right.
And we are,
Do we want to say that because Monday's meeting is primarily reopening and not on the nuances of distance learning per se, that we focus on the mask policy Monday and we collectively revisit this next week?
It
Perfect.
sounds like a good plan.
Sounds like
So
a
that we're
perfect
not
plan.
rushing this and then having a nightmare scenario at 10 o'clock on Monday where we're wordsmithing with 21 people.
Oh, that please never.
I was gonna offer to do this ahead of that meeting on Monday if you all have time, but if that doesn't work next Friday.
Yeah, and we could meet at 5 o'clock on Monday too, but I'm not sure the urgency exists here so much as the urgency exists on the face masking.
That's fine.
Good. I'm tagging this as leaving here to pick up next
So-
Friday.
And so we're all good for Friday, the 24th to,
9 o'clock again or
9 o'clock, please.
9 o'clock? Yeah.
Stephanie, does that work for you next Friday?
I'm just looking at my calendar. Yes, it does.
Okay.
9 o'clock.
Okay.
Good. Public comment?
David?
Oh, hi there. Sorry. I don't think so. We just are thrilled to hear that we're going back to school with masks, it sounds like.
Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
Board member comment? Committee member
Thank
comment?
you for your hard work today. It was a long day. And it's
And just
only
to
just begun.
And I would
Thank you guys
encourage,
for thinking everything through so carefully, and it sounds like you're just doing a lot of work to ensure the kids are and everyone is safe. So we appreciate that.
And
I
this
would
is,
just encourage you guys to come virtually Monday night to hear the nitty gritty of the whole plan because
Yeah.
there's a lot.
yeah, and Dr. Pearson has done a tremendous, I mean, this is nothing compared to the real detailed work that Dr. Pearson has done. Like you'll see on Monday night, it's a very good plan and there's detail.
And John's graphics make it come alive. So,
I have to make a contribution somewhere.
all right. So I would move that we adjourn at 11:45.
Second?
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Have a good day, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you.